Hey, my friends, this is Steve with Real Progressives. I wanted to get an early live stream out today because I want to teach you guys something. Now, hopefully this will stick. Hopefully it'll make sense to you. What is a dollar? Well, in the most simple terms, a dollar is simply a tax credit. That's all a dollar is. The government agrees to accept $1 in terms of tax. So when it issues a dollar, when it spends dollars into existence, those dollars are simply there to be used to facilitate buyers and sellers in the economy, but it's also intended for the government to receive it back as a tax credit. When it receives the dollar back as a tax credit, the dollar is extinguished. It's done its job. Its life is over. It's not a forever thing, you know. In a fiat system, you have a system where you have a driver, the carrot and the stick, if you will, okay? So the carrot here is that, hey, the government needs to provision itself. It needs to build an army. It needs to build a roadway. It needs to build a school system. It needs to build, an air traffic control station. It needs to do something. And it needs you. It needs labor to go out there and do these tasks. So without the government marching out there with guns and tanks and forcing you by gunpoint to be a slave and do these things, it has to have some means of getting you out there to do these things. So what does it do? It issues money into the economy and it says, here, please go do this for $100. Well, you look at this paper and you go, it's worthless, and you wipe your tail end with it and you're like, what do I do with this money? The government's like, you're right, it is worthless. So here's what we're going to do. For you to keep your house, you're going to have to pay a tax payable only in that worthless piece of paper. You can't use chicken necks. You can't use gasoline. You can't use diamonds. You can't use, sexual favors. You can't use, singing, soliloquies and serenading me by window at night to pay the debt. The only way you can pay the debt is that worthless piece of paper you just smeared your poop on. You're like, what? Okay. So this is the way a fiat currency works. The government issues it to provision itself. It says, we're willing to accept this piece of paper as payment on your tax debt. The tax is not there to pay for things because the government freely creates these pieces of paper. It's there simply to drive your need to get those pieces of paper. This is the difference between a fiat system and a bunch of other systems. It's very important you understand this. It's not like my precious. These dollars come and go. Dollars are not eternal. They do their tour around, and then when they come back as a tax, they're deleted. It's kind of cool when you understand it, but when you don't understand it, it's really crazy, right? So I want to talk to you all a little bit about money as debt. Money in and of itself is debt, right? Think about it. Think about what I just said. Money is debt. So on a ledger, if you had a T-bill, just a T ledger, you have assets and liabilities. So when the government spends a dollar into the world, it puts a debt on its side and gives you an asset, which is its dollar. You're holding that dollar until you go ahead and try to redeem that debt. Now all of a sudden you send that dollar back, the debt's washed off, you're good to go, it's done. That's why when we talk about the government debt, the national debt, what is the national debt? It's the sum total of every untaxed dollar in existence. So if you were to eliminate the national debt, what would you actually do to the money supply? Think about that. I want you to think about what happens when you reduce the national debt. You've just eliminated the money supply, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense when you understand how this works. Doesn't make any sense at all when you understand how this works. But most people really don't. So what is the deficit? The deficit's a really important thing, right? We hear about it all the time. People are like, oh my God, President Trump, the orange orangutan buffoon is blowing up the deficit. Well, look, Donald Trump is a pile of dung. There's no getting around it. But let's not apply really terrible economics to try to beat down the orangutan, Cheeto, or whatever it is you call him. Okay? Let's keep it real and talk about what the deficit really is. The deficit is the sum total of the difference between the money the government spends and the money the government taxes in a given year, 1 year. The deficit resets to zero every single year because it's a budgetary number. There is no long-term deficits. That's not how it works. The deficit is the difference between the amount of money spent into the economy by the government and the amount that it taxes out of the economy. It's pretty simple. So let me ask you this question, friends. Why do you want to reduce the deficit? I'm just asking the question. Why do you want to reduce the deficit? Do you have a good answer for that, or is it just something you've heard somebody say and you've repeated it? You're asking to reduce the money in your and my wallet, so I'm asking you, why is it that you want to reduce the deficit? So why would we raise taxes if we don't need to pay for things in taxes? Taxes serve as the driver, we already talked about that, for the need for the dollar. But why would you want to raise taxes? Well, when you raise taxes, what have you effectively done? You raise or lower buying power. So it makes good sense that you would have a progressive income tax because you want to limit the ability of the wealthy to buy society right out from under you, right? You want to limit the ability of wealthy people to be able to have an outsized take of the economy, of the real resources that undergird the society. But you're not raising taxes to pay for things. You understand? Taxes serve as a brake or a gas pedal on the economy, but they don't pay for things. You've got to remember what exactly a dollar is. A dollar is not made out of some precious material. We can never run out of dollars. Dollars are an infinite public utility. The question is, how much real resources do we have to support that dollar? And that's why we would raise taxes or lower taxes, because maybe we need to limit buying power for any given time to defend against inflation. But the idea that we could have debt-free money is a ridiculous misnomer. There is no such thing as debt-free money. Otherwise, why in the world would you want it? Why would you need it? What purpose would it serve? If you go to the coat rack at a theater and you hand them your coat and they give you a ticket, what is that ticket? That's a debt. It's a claim on a debt. They owe you your jacket. If they tried to tell you that that doesn't mean anything, that's debt-free money. But they have accepted that that coat ticket, that receipt, is a claim on your jacket. So you bring it back and you get your jacket back. Same thing at the valet service. You go bring your car to the hotel. You go ahead and hand them your keys. They give you a ticket. Ticket number 555, whatever. You go and enjoy the football game or whatever it is you're doing. You come back with your ticket, you hand it to them. They bring your car up, they hand you your ticket and your keys, and they send you on your way. You give them a tip and you call it even. But that's a claim on the car. It's the same thing with a dollar. They give you your tax bill and they say you owe $5,000 in taxes. They don't say you owe 5,000 cans of oil. They don't say you owe 3,000 diamonds. They don't say you owe 5 Bitcoin. They say you owe $5,000 because the tax is payable only in the currency. So therefore, all money is debt. It's meant to settle a debt obligation. And that's how we use it in society. So let's be real clear. The national debt is nothing more than the sum total of every untaxed dollar in existence. The U.S. doesn't borrow keystrokes from China. The U.S. doesn't need Bill Gates' money to spend on the public purpose. The freaking government doesn't require anything like that whatsoever. In fact, if we wanted a Green New Deal yesterday, we could do it in spite of the wealthy. We could do it in spite of corporate interests, and we could spend that money right into existence and save us all from cataclysmic environmental disaster. We don't require an income. The federal government doesn't require an income. So the taxes are already in place. In other words, Medicare for All doesn't require a tax hike. There's already sufficient tax in society to drive your need for that dollar. There's no paying for the program. Do you understand? And this is why the silly pay-go thing that's going on right now is so vital to understand. There are people out there that are vote blue no matter who, that are literally because the Democrats as a bloc unanimously minus 3 progressives voted to institute pay-go. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ro Khanna, and Tulsi Gabbard are the only 3 in the entire block of Democrats that voted against pay-go. 3, folks. 3. And you want to know why we're screwed? Let me tell you something. I posted an article a few minutes ago. One of the new congresswomen now thinks that her number one charge in the world is to impeach that motherfucker, Donald Trump. I posted, it's a roll call article, but her number one goal is to impeach that motherfucker. Now, I cannot stand Donald Trump, but I hate an economically illiterate representative more than any human being on the planet. And so because these parasites don't realize that pay-go limits our ability to have a progressive agenda, then I don't have any time for their nonsense. Do you see this fapping, this all circle jerking about impeaching Donald Trump? Okay? It's not getting us a Green New Deal. It's not getting us health care. It's not doing anything other than redirecting all that energy to a nonsensical bullshit deal. Here I am, just a dude sitting in a chair with a Meshuggah hat on and a friggin' wild-ass punk rock shirt, sitting there telling you about how debt and deficits work, and these dummies that just got elected don't know this stuff, but they're out there going to run off and impeach Donald Trump. They don't care that we don't have health care. They don't care that we don't have dental care. They don't care that we're straggling along with student debt. They don't care that we don't have green energy. They don't care about, but they want to impeach that motherfucker. They want to impeach that motherfucker. Folks, there's your blue wave. There's your blue wave. I would love to have every one of these incoming freshmen sit there with me, and I would just literally do the dance of the dead around them talking about economics. And I'm just a dude with a Meshuggah hat, with a punk rock shirt, sitting in my living room, and I can crush their soul when it comes to economics. How is that possible, that they're up there representing us, and they're going to impeach that motherfucker? How is it possible that a dude with a Meshuggah hat on, with a punk rock shirt, can be sitting there ready to drop an elbow of truth on these people, and they're supposed to be representing you and I? How is that even possible? Folks, how is it possible? Thank you, Tom Murphy. We have 12 years to get this climate stuff correct, but they're going to impeach that motherfucker. There's your blue wave, friends. Kiss your kids goodbye. Kiss them all. hug them, pray with them, do whatever it is you've got to do. Because these people, you have the gold buggers that want to talk about the value of my dollar over here that would let us all die because they're just as bad. And then you got these people over here, impeach that motherfucker, let's institute pay-go. Very, very few people care that you live or die. Very few people care that your kids have a future on this planet. Very few people care if we survive as a species. And it's proven time and time again. And then when you sit there and break this stuff out, they get triggered. They get upset. Like somehow or another, I strayed from the truth. Like somehow or another, I'm the one that's wrong for being upset. When in reality, we elected you to do a job and you're not doing your job. And worse, you're misleading people that carelessly follow whatever you say. So there will be people out there, impeach that motherfucker, not caring about whether or not we solve any other problem. Because they're lemmings, they're sheep, and they do what sheep do. Bah! And that's the deal. Again, make sure you kiss your kids goodnight, because these people are going to make sure they don't have a future. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. Please read the links that I included in the narrative of this. It will help you understand more. Please make sure you're a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And don't let the fact that you might be wearing a Meshuggah hat or a punk rock shirt stop you from speaking truth to power. These people don't have a lock on truth. They are absolutely, purely, unequivocatingly ignorant people. And they are making rules about your life. They are making rules about your life. Hold them accountable. Do not be silent. Do not just sit around and pout. Take the charge and do something about it. And I see Warren Mosler just joined. Warren's article, one of two of them in the narrative, are very, very important articles for you to read. I want you to take the time to read them and learn this stuff, because this is how you become a powerful activist. Not by following the herd, but by understanding the cliff ahead of you. And I'm expecting that we'll see people rising up and doing the right things. Because as of right now, there were only 3 people, 3, that voted against Nancy Pegosi's nonsense. 3. And I'll repeat them to give the proper credit. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Tulsi Gabbard, and Ro Khanna. That's it. That's it. The rest, full-bore economic illiterates. MMT would be modern monetary theory. We cover it frequently. Please look up Warren Mosler. He's in here. Please look up Randy Ray. Please look up Bill Mitchell. Please look up Stephanie Kelton. And please, by all means, stick here with Real Progressives. We sit there, eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. This is it, man. This is ground zero of a real revolution. Y'all take care. Bye.